chose this race because I wanted to get rid of the MAGA Republican, right? It wasn't anything deeper than that. And I'd be lying if I said it was. That said, I do think we have to win local if we're going to win national.
My name is Amy McDonald. You know who I am. This is the Foolish Optimist podcast. We have a really great guest today. We have Steve Schwab. He is running in Texas House of Representatives, House District 44. I want to give you an introduction, but your bio is like, you're the most interesting person in the world. So how about you give me a little background on where you are, how you got to where you are today, and why you're running in the Texas House this year.
Sure. And feel free to cut me off if I get too long-winded here. I think I've had a fairly interesting life. So I grew up outside of Boston. That's pretty far from Texas. My dad had been in the Army. He's from Louisiana. My mom was from Massachusetts. My grandmother had a heart attack. We moved back there. Well, my dad got out of the Army. Grew up when I was 11. My dad started getting sick. By the time I was 14, he could no longer work. And what came down to is my dad had Agent Orange poisoning from his service in Vietnam. He had been a door gunner on a helicopter, was flying through the areas where they were dropping the emollient, ended up getting really sick. And again, stopped working, had some other issues, health issues. And we went from being solidly middle class to coming very close to losing our house almost overnight, right? And so I would say things in my life changed drastically from the time I was collectors calling the house on a daily basis, unable to pay the bills. We were involved in a number of lawsuits trying to get some money, both with the government that was at that time less likely to acknowledge Agent Orange, as well as he had been hit by a truck at the workplace. Yeah, I know. It was just a confluence of events of things going on, and then trying to get some money from somebody who has no money, even though they were wrong, right? It was all these problems. So sort of flash forward, I'm in high school. I want to go to college. I get into an expensive private school, and, my dad or my parents, really being who they were, really wanted to make it work, but they just didn't have the money. And so I got a bunch of financial aid. My first year, schools like that were known for giving a bunch the first year and then sort of drawing it down, thinking that you'd stay. So my freshman year, while I'm there and I have the financial aid, I go and I join ROTC, Reserve Officer Training Corps, trained for the Army. They paid a substantial portion of my tuition. Was good because the school did in fact drop my financial aid the next year, but I had the Army covering it. And so I was able to afford to continue to go to school. At that time, I was like, oh, I love politics. I want to go into politics. I studied political science, which some viewers may not know what political science is. It does not train you to go into politics. It's really more about philosophy.
It's like history. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I took some pre-law classes, and I just realized at the time that A, I never wanted to be a lawyer. I found that incredibly boring. And two, politics was mostly raising money. And I said, you know what? I thought I wanted to go into politics. I still want to do stuff to help people, but this is not the way. Calling people every day, asking for money, spending 3 hours on the phone does not sound like a good time. I put that dream behind me and was like, all right, I'm going to do other things. I'm going to go in the Army for a while. I don't know what I'll do after that. I was working as an EMT in college. It's like, hey, I would like to be in the medical field somehow. Senior year, 9/11 hits. I'm a senior in college, getting ready to commission into the Army. And biggest fear from before then was you go spend 6 months in Bosnia or Kosovo, which, it's not that there's zero risk, but it's very different than what happened after 9/11.
Yeah.
And I come in the Army, and within a year and a half of me entering the Army, I'm in Baghdad, leading troops as a platoon leader, ended up as a company XO. My first duty station was in Texas, so that was my first acclimation. I go to Fort Hood, later Fort Cavazos, now back to Fort Hood. Yeah. And, almost immediately I'm deployed to Iraq, and I get my first taste of, I would say, real leadership and danger and responsibility and all those things that come with being responsible for people's lives in that type of situation. I distinctly remember our first week in at Baghdad, we have a mass casualty situation. There's been some movies made about this, but Sadr City was a real bad area in Baghdad where Saddam Hussein had basically created slums that you can't imagine, forcing Shiite Muslims in there. As you might imagine, living in those terrible conditions, some extremists
Yeah.
were gaining power, and they ambush a bunch of our troops. And we have this whole, I'm running a medical area, and we have this whole mass casualty. It's like, okay, welcome to war. Welcome to real life. So I served there for a year. I come back, I do some training, and before I know it, I'm back in Iraq a year and a half later. I was there for 15 months. Halfway through, I take command of a medical company. I end up commanding that company for a little over 2 years and a few months. So I was command there, come back home, did a whole train up. It was like 12 months and a week, and we're in Iraq. And I did another year there. Yeah. So yeah, it was just, you were
It's just
constantly.
like, as soon as you get back, you're like, and we need to just, churn it back around. Yeah. Jeez.
Exactly. I will never forget, we were getting ready to come back from our 15-month deployment. And so we had been gone from October of 06 to January of 08. And so this is January of 08. We're like a week before coming home, and they announced when we were going to come back to Iraq. And we're like, could you at least let us have some joy? Like everyone's excited. And then it's, hi, honey, I'm only here for a year.
Family. Yeah.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, in that year, we do about, we do a month at a training rotation out away from home. We do another month in the field. Right. And so really you're with your family for 6 to 9 months, depending, with long work hours in there. It's,
Yeah.
it was rough. I do this third deployment. I was still in command when I left. We typically try to change commands over there. So I changed command and moved on to doing finance and logistics for a brigade combat team. And in this time, I had prepared my paperwork to get out of the Army. It was like, all right, I've done 8 years.
It's time.
Yep, it's time. I've been deployed basically more than I haven't been, especially if you count field time and other stuff.
Right.
I basically never see my family. At one point, I missed 3 out of 4 Christmases and Thanksgivings because we had left in October and did a 15-month through January. We're only home for a year. When you add all of this, and with some other training, it had actually been 4 out of 6 that I had missed. So I was done and scrolling and just seeing options out there, trying to figure out what I want to do. And I see a call from the Army for people who are in my, had been in the Army for 6 to 8 years to go to a program with Baylor University, get an advanced degree, an MBA, a Master of Health Administration, and either become a hospital administrator or a hospital finance person, we call it comptroller. And so I said, that sounds better than what I've been doing, right? So, I went through this and I got offered to go become a comptroller, learn finance, get 2 masters. I had to agree to serve, I think it was 3 or 4 years afterward. It's like, okay, I'll go do this. I went in, I got my 2 degrees. I kind of fell in love with it, right? I really enjoyed being back in school. I hadn't done super well as an undergrad. I wasn't very focused. Army changes that to some extent, right?
As undergrads, we're having fun.
Yeah.
We're that's first time away from home, really just enjoying it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I would say I think it's for everyone, but my high school life had been so stressful with my dad being sick.
Yeah.
You're finally out on your own, making some money, and because I'd worked part-time, and a lot of it went home and a lot of it went to school, but you had enough to have some fun. It was just a different. Regardless, I'm back at school. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying learning things. I request to go work in research and development. So even though I was a healthcare person, I didn't really want to work in a hospital, a fixed hospital. That to me didn't seem as interesting. I'd been doing emergency medicine really with the field. And so I was like, okay, let me go do this research thing. This seems pretty interesting. And so I go, my first job as a certified finance comptroller, I'm the budget officer for the medical research command for the Army, which is huge. It's a $2 billion budget. I did have somebody who, another finance person who was in charge of me. I wasn't the CFO. You're seeing all this cool cutting edge stuff we're financing. I was like, this is amazing. While I'm there, there's a call for people to go get PhDs. And I was like, I like doing this research thing. PhDs are mostly research. I had thought for a while about being a teacher. I was actually thinking about being an elementary teacher. My mom was a teacher. She was a school librarian. Later was kind of I really enjoy teaching. I like research. I was like, let me go do this PhD thing. So I applied to the Army. They send about 1 person in my career field each year or every other year to go get a PhD. And so I said, okay, let me do that. And it's a long process. You get selected and then you leave like a year and a half. And then you got to
Yeah.
apply to schools and get in there. And so it's just a
Yeah.
long cycle. But meanwhile, I changed jobs from being the budget officer to the CFO of a research institute.
Cool.
Meanwhile, I'm applying to universities to get my PhD. I get into Wharton, which was, a dream come true. I apply thinking there's no chance they're going to take me. I would say never self-reject, right? Like
Right.
over the
Can't
cost of
close that
application.
door.
Yeah.
You can't close the door. It's that's crazy. I love when people do that. I'm like, shut up, just send it. Fuck it.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like let them close it in front of me.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to close it myself.
Yeah.
But so I get in there, I do my year. It was basically a year that I was the CFO of Rare.
Okay.
Really enjoyed it. Loved one of my favorite jobs I ever had. I was being the CFO of a research institute. It was so interesting. You really got to use sort of your, I would say, it's not, I'm not an artist, but it's creative talent on how you've managed.
It's a different part of the brain. Yeah, it is. It's nice.
It is. And so learned more about costing models than like I ever thought I would know.
The only person who's ever said costing models are creative.
So I go to Wharton. The Army gives you 3 years. I've at least been told, I don't know, I can't confirm this with data, but I've been told I'm the fastest person, at least in my department's history, to get through with a PhD there. Now, again, part of that's your force because the Army says you only have this much time.
Right. You're like, yeah. And then you stop paying for it and it's fucking Wharton. I'm not paying for that.
Yeah.
I got to finish it or then they'll make me pay for it. Like, no, it's happening.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
So I finish at Wharton. I get my PhD. So the Wharton, regardless of what department you're in, it's a managerial science and applied economics is the PhD they give out. Mine was focused in healthcare management and economics. Write my dissertation on discontinuity in the patient-physician relationship. And I get really interested in how relationships affect performance, right? I've always been, even as a leader in the Army, when I didn't know any of the academic work, I always thought, well, taking care of people is really important. Right. Yeah. People burn out and, it's my job. I always called myself the coach, right? Like if I've got a really good left fielder, I don't put them at third base. And if I got a really good third baseman, I don't put them in left field. Right. And so it's finding the right job for each person that they could really maximize their skills. And so I spend years thinking about that. Like, how do I get the most out of people? And now I have the opportunity to research it and understand, like, a lot of this comes down to like how we're treated, right? How do we motivate people? How do we give them the resources they need to be the best version of themselves? I go back to the Army. I actually teach this program with Baylor for a few years. Then the Army, being the Army, says you have to go find a different job. Yeah. I get selected to be the CFO of the military's largest hospital, Brooke Army Medical Center. A lot of people think it's Walter Reed. It's not. It's Brooke Army Medical Center. But a level 1 trauma center, see civilians, very much more complicated in many ways than other military hospitals because they have this trauma mission and they see civilians throughout San Antonio. And so you have to do the billing, you have to do all these other things that you would do in sort of a traditional civilian hospital that you typically don't have to do very much in the military hospital.
Right.
At this point, I was pretty decided I wanted to be in academia. I'm never going to be complaining about my salary. I've got a military pension. I've got VA disability. As an economist, you get paid more than a history professor. I'm not complaining. There's plenty of people who have more to complain about, but a hospital CFO makes a lot more than professor. And so we had a conversation, right? Do we chase money or do we go do what I want to do, what I really enjoy and where I feel like I make the biggest mark? My wife being very, very supportive, we decide I'm just going to stay in academia. Like we have a very comfortable life.
I was about to say, but my mom teaches out of college now. And like, even just as a teacher, there was a lot of flex. Like I didn't understand other people's parents weren't home during the summer. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I was like, I don't get it. I was like, so it's very helpful and you can actually be there for the events.
That's exactly it, right? I would say you have to put in your hours, but you can put in the hours whenever you want because I can just come sit in my home office and do it.
Right.
It's not like I need to be on when other people are on for the most part. So it was great, right? It's very flexible. It makes me much more present for my family than I could ever be when I was in the Army. It's, just honestly loving life.
Night and day.
I enjoyed my time in the Army, but I really enjoy being a retiree.
For sure.
Yeah. And I'm working and I'm at UTSA and then November of 2024 happened, right? So Trump is reelected and should go back and say that I was a typical, like, sometimes vote Republican, sometimes vote Democrat. I was
Yeah.
registered as a Republican up through 2016. And then when Trump took over, the party didn't stand for anything that I stood for, right? So
Right.
I'm fiscally conservative. It was, right, I'm a ardent capitalist, free trade, right? And we can talk about some of those issues. But I just felt, okay, all of a sudden the Trump Republican Party, MAGA, is socially conservative, fiscally liberal, where I come
It's
from
so
this, like,
weird.
yeah,
It doesn't make any sense. Like literally, I'm like, oh, you're the small government people? Get out of my uterus. Get like,
yeah,
it's so many,
totally.
like, there's so many contradictions and like, it is not, I try to explain this to people. I'm like, it's not it's not the Republican Party anymore. It hasn't
No,
been
it's not.
it hasn't been officially in like 10 years, but like realistically, it started with the Tea Party kind of starting to pull.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yep. Ever since the Tea Party. I mean, look, I think, now with eyes wide open, you can go back to sort
You
of
go as far
Nixon
back
and
as you
Reagan and find things that they
Oh, for
did
sure.
that didn't really. No, but you can do the same thing with Democrats, right? Like, I've
Of
got
course.
tons of problems with our Democrat electeds.
What
too.
do you
So,
mean? They're perfect.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry. Couldn't
Yeah.
even get it. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
almost threw up. No, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like it's fucking politics. Everybody
Yeah.
kind of sucks. You got to be the best version of yourself, and you got to like bring out the best version of each party or change
Yeah.
it from the inside out.
Exactly. And so I go back and forth. I get annoyed with something from one and I go to the other, and then I get annoyed with something there and I go back. And traditional median voter, independent,
Yeah.
that I make a decision on each race. And then, again, then 2016 happens, and I say, I'm done with that party until all of these people are out. Like, I just
Yeah.
cannot support. It's the complete opposite on every angle of what I support.
It is. It really is.
And so I changed to Democrat, still very centrist, very, I would say, small c conservative Democrat, in that I am on the part of I am very fiscally conservative. I am very worried about the debt and the deficit, but I'm also
Yeah.
socially, like, libertarian, right? Like you said, stay out of your uterus. Like, I just don't think the government has a place with
Yeah.
any sort of this kind of, like, these are personal decisions.
Yeah.
And so I become a Democrat. So flash forward, now it's 2024.
I'm like, let's
loving
go.
life.
We gotta. It's been
Yeah.
22 minutes. You gotta get. I'm gonna cut it and I'm gonna put it at the beginning. But tell me.
Sorry. I know. I told you I could be long-winded with my story.
Yeah. I was worried when you started when you were 10. And I was like, I know it's an important part of the story, but I was like, oh no, we've got a ways to go. So tell me why you're running for office this year, right now.
Okay. So 2024, November 2024 happens. And I remember, like, talking with friends, and they were very worried. And I was the one saying, look, we've been through this before. It'll be okay. Yes, it's gonna hurt people, right? No doubt in my
Yeah.
mind that, like, people will die because of his policies.
Yes.
But we've been through this before. Like, we're just gonna have to fight from the inside. We're gonna have to do what we can and take it back. And I was sort of accepting that, right? This
Yeah.
is what happens.
This is it.
And then by January, like, after the inauguration, it was very clear that this was not going to be a repeat of the first term, and that he had now surrounded himself with sycophants, with yes men, with people that have basically no morals, right? Just completely amoral. You got things like Elon Musk saying that empathy was a negative, and right, the opposite of everything I stand in. And now I start to be, like, really worried about the future of our country.
Yeah.
And so I'm, doing the typical scrolling social media, getting angry, but it was beyond that, right? I wasn't sleeping well because I was just so
Yeah.
angry.
Yeah.
And my wife looked at me one night, probably like early February, and was like, you can't do this for 4 years.
Right. You're
And-
gonna die. Sleep deprivation will kill you. Yeah.
Exactly,
You might have a heart
right?
attack. Like,
And she worries a lot about my stress levels. So
yeah.
And so I just sort of said, you know what, you're right. I can't just sit here and scroll social media and be angry. We got to do something. And so started talking, figuring out, okay, like, how do we want to get involved? What's my skill set? I'm very used to being in front of people. I'm very comfortable talking. I think I have a lot of policy ideas. The thing that had kept me out of politics, and I'd always been very interested in it, was just the fundraising. And so I just made that decision, or we made the decision as a team that, you know what, we'll suck it up. I'll have to go fundraise. And it's not the fun part, but we're not going to change things if we don't try to do this. And so
Yeah.
I am represented by a Democrat in the US Congress. Don't love him, but we're represented by a Democrat who's also under indictment for corruption and things.
Oh,
But yeah. And so I didn't know that when I was making this decision. But I'm represented by a Republican in the Texas House. And so we
yes.
said, well, the first priority is getting a MAGA Republican out of office. And I am represent, and I use the term represented very loosely because
Loosely. Yeah.
he does not represent our district. He was bought and paid for by Abbott and dark money that came in from New Jersey billionaires through Abbott's path in order to get school vouchers passed. Yeah. So last cycle, he had primaried our fairly moderate traditional Republican representative, who was, again, like I could disagree on policy, but he was trying to represent our area.
It's like a decent person.
Very
Yeah,
decent
like-
person, even if we have like, specific policy differences. But this guy comes in, he gets an almost $1 million check from the governor's PAC, so he doesn't have to raise any money, primaries this moderate, wins a fairly close election in the primary, and then coasts because we're in a pretty red district.
Right.
And the Democrats, right, like put up nice people, but not resourced in order to win these elections.
Yes.
Right. And so he wins. And I say, you know what, this cannot be. I think that my biography, my military service, my PhD in economics from Wharton is going to play better and potentially make this a closer race. And so, yes, this is a Trump district by 30 points. It is an uphill race for me to win.
Right.
There is no sugarcoating that. At the same point, I don't think Democrats have really run a race. So even though we say 30 points,
We have
didn't
no
do the
fucking
things.
idea.
Exactly.
That's what kills me. So like I'm like dyed in the wool. This podcast is named after something FDR said. Like I am so far left that I'm not represented on the spectrum, but I'm still like deeply rooted in capitalism, right? People make that mistake constantly. They're like, you're a leftist. I'm like, you don't know what that means. That's fine. But like, I'm like, no, I'm like big L liberal. Like I am a big L liberal. Just you haven't seen one in a long time. But like we've given up. The Democratic Party has given up on so many down ballot races.
Yeah,
and now
the
your
money-
house district, your state house district is getting millions of like $1 million for a state house. The money is insane.
It is completely insane. I chose this race because I wanted to get rid of a MAGA Republican, right? It wasn't anything deeper than that. And I'd be lying if I said it was. That said, I do think we have to win local if we're going to win national, right? So your local races.
Up.
Exactly. And so I think it's really, really important that we invest in these local races. I think, especially a state like Texas, which is, if you look at like what's being elected, it looks like it's very far red, but the state itself is much more purple, right?
It's
we have,
so purple.
Exactly. We have the second most Democrats to California.
Yeah. It drives me insane. It literally, people refuse to do that one extra step, right? So I live in Brooklyn now, but I grew up in North Carolina and Asheville happened. I'm going to ask you about the Texas floods here in a minute, but Asheville happened and like everyone was like, that's what they voted for. I'm like, it was 51 to 49%. What do you mean that's what they voted for? What are you fucking smoking? And can I have some? It sounds like fun. Like nobody does that extra level of like, we look at this map and we say, oh, Texas is red. Texas has always been red, but there's so many blue voters there and so many independents as well. I mean, realistically, that could go. They swim back like you.
Exactly, right? And honestly, Texas was blue for a long time. Now, granted, the whole Southern South and like, the Solid South and all that.
Dive into political history, political party history.
I mean, they're like, even into the 80s, like Ann Richardson, right? Like we had Democratic governor here. It's not Ann Richardson, but like there is room for this state. And if we just turn state Texas blue, like there is no path to victory for Republicans without Texas.
I know.
Right? And so many people that will stop the gerrymandering, that will, make sure that we're not disenfranchising people, which we are, right? Like they're shutting down voting booths so that you can wait no longer in line if you live in Houston.
Yeah, it's literally so apparent, and and then people are like, well, this is what they voted for. I'm like, Have you read
I
one
despise that.
headline?
I
One headline,
just,
just one headline. You'll know that they're suppressed to
mm,
the nth extent.
yeah, I also just don't like that this is what they voted for, right?
It makes me want to like road punch somebody.
Yeah, no, that's 100%. And you mentioned the floods. Like I saw some of that there, and it's like, well, I got news for you. None of these kids voted for that, and
Voted for
also like,
shit because they're
yeah,
13. They're 9.
exactly,
Like
right. And I could disagree with your vote. That doesn't mean I think you should have the death penalty. Like, come on.
that. That's it. For a long time in this country, many people younger than I do don't remember this, but there was a time where there was like a respectable version of like,
Mhm.
we disagree on everything,
Mhm.
and yet we still respect each other.
Yeah.
What a concept.
Yeah, I know. What a concept. I would say reasonable people can disagree, right? We can
Yeah.
have disagree. And I know everyone's going, well, people are dying. And it's not untrue. Like it is, but like even taking like USAID, like how
Yeah.
much money should we be putting to other countries, right? It's a reasonable policy discussion to say, like, we have needs at home, there's needs abroad. How should we be distributing these things? Now, don't get me wrong. I think the Trump administration is just sort of doing what they can to be cruel.
I feel like they have a crayon and they're just like, ta-da, yay, cut it
No,
out.
I
We're
think
done.
I think that's 100% true. But in general, right? Like the one thing I'll say is like Trump is not a smart man, and I know people don't like me to say that. Like Trump is not a smart man, but what he is really good at is manipulation.
He's been doing it since the fucking 70s. Like he's been doing it for
Yes.
over 50 years. And I think he's getting a little bit
Mhm.
less good at it right now. I think in his old age, I don't want to say
Yeah,
he's in
yeah.
like severe cognitive decline, like everyone else is saying, but there's something happening where he's losing his edge. But literally from the 70s till like the mid 2000s, even into the aughts, like that man was slick for like, and he still was into 2016.
Yeah, no, he is slick. He has built this so people believe him when he says things that he lies to them. So when you blame people for their vote,
Yeah.
like you have to understand that they're believing what he's telling them.
Yeah.
Right. And even like some of the things that like I've like the deportations, which I am so far against. Like I can't even put into words how wrong I think these are.
Yeah.
And that's not to say I don't think we should secure borders. I think we do have to have secure borders. I just think the people that are already here, you've got to find a pathway. Like just sending people who've been here for years back who are not violent criminals, not the violent criminals again. But I don't even know where I was going with this. Right? Like it's just there are so many.
It's just people have been lied to, right?
Yeah,
the average voter has been
right?
lied to. Yeah.
I mean, if I say, "Hey, do you want to get dangerous criminals out of the country?" Who is going to say no to that?
Like actually,
Right?
I really like that they're here.
Yeah, right. Like everybody wants to do that, and so it's creating these sort of like third grade, whatever, playground type questions that there is no right answer to because obviously we want to get rid of dangerous criminals. I can't remember the name. There's sort of names for these sort of like arguing, debating.
Well, and
fallacy.
it's reducing nuance. It's bringing it down to like the bottom line. And I've had this conversation with so many people. Like I am so mentally prepared to give people, the average voter, a soft place to land. You know, they're going to come out with this like very big cult of personality, and it's going to be fucking rough. And I'm fine with that. The leaders who are in office right now, who have bent over backwards to kiss Donald Trump's ass, do not get a soft place to land. I'm going to give them a slab of concrete. Like I'm so mad at them because they literally will say in closed doors, "We know this is bad, but we still have to vote for it."
Oh, totally. Yeah. I think if you think about the spectrum, right, there's the 15 to, I don't know exactly what it is, like 15, 20% that are so MAGA that there is no coming back, right? Like, I mean, I'm not saying, obviously, they're still part of the country and we can't just rule them out, but
we can't just throw them out because we don't like them?
Yes. Yeah. I know, right? Crazy. But
that
there's no, like, they're always going to be sort of voting in this way and they're just hateful, racist, whatever you want to call, right? I don't like the way Hillary Clinton talked about deplorable, but those are the people that they just buy in and they'll lie and they'll cheat and they'll steal.
Do whatever it takes.
Yep. Right. And maybe it's less than 2, maybe it's 10%. I don't know. But those are sort of the, I'll say the JD Vances of the world, right? The Pam Bondi, the people that will just
the
You know,
there's no Epstein list Pam Bondi, even though there was
yeah,
one 5 days ago.
yeah. Uh, but beyond that, right? The sort of whatever, if we take it, let's take the country as 50-50, which is, the
Right.
elections are pretty close. This next like 30% are people that have been manipulated
Yep.
or thought it was the lesser of two evils, or however they decided. I've got good friends who said, you know what, there's no way I could vote for Harris, so I voted for Trump. I don't agree with that. And I think a lot of it's because they're watching this ultra conservative media that's like lying about Harris.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
beyond that, right, they still made that decision, but it wasn't like, oh no, we really like what Trump's doing. It was,
Yeah.
we think it's the better than the alternative. Okay, like we can work with that, right? And then you go to the left and you've got 30-40%, whatever, that are a different level of how progressive you want to
Yeah.
be, or, and then you've got this like extreme sort of,
Which is like the smallest percentage ever. And people are always like, oh, but
yeah,
there's people on your side that are super extreme. I'm like,
yeah,
yeah, it's like 15 of them. There's so few and far between that like you just hear them because they're fucking loud. And
yeah,
it's so annoying to me
yeah,
because then they'll be, then in that same breath, people are like Bernie Sanders. And I was like, Bernie Sanders is, you drop Bernie Sanders in Europe, he is center fucking right. Like, calm down. It's mind boggling to me. My degree is in international affairs, so you've got your
yeah,
political science. I've got
yeah,
my specific degree is
yeah,
between France, Great Britain, and the U.S. And
yeah,
like you're talking about
mhm.
far left, we go to France. I'm a field day.
Yeah. I think, who knows, right? If we had a proportional representation versus, the system that we have, it might look different. But
Yeah, but
either
you're
way,
you're
right? The
right.
point
The
is, right, there's
vast
these
majority
extremes.
of
Yeah,
us are in the middle. Like
yeah,
almost probably like 85-90% are in the
right,
middle, right?
right. And we're allowing both political parties are doing now. Again, I think the Republican has gotten so far down under Trump that I don't think it's like both sides, right?
Yeah.
But I do say
Yeah.
to some extent, both sides do this, right? They take the most extreme of the other side and try to portray everybody as being like that. And when you're in a sort of media vacuum, that's what you see and what you hear and what you read.
Right. Right.
Right
No,
in these
exactly. I
silos.
mean, it's the nature of these algorithmic apps that we
Yeah.
are on. And
Mhm.
it's so frustrating because this is all kind of looping back into who is in the administration right now, but also how we've treated this new tech for the last 30 years, where it's like,
Yeah.
there were probably, I was a baby. I wasn't there. I wasn't in the room in Washington, D.C., but I'm certain there were people talking about this like, hey, this is what algorithms do. Like very smart people who probably went to school like Wharton or Stanford who were like, as these algorithmic apps come up, as they get better, it's going to cause problems, right? Especially as
Yeah.
we don't have the fairness doctrine. People, we have no regulations on cable or cable prices. So nobody's watching cable news anymore. They're like, oh
Yeah.
shit, like we've created the problem and now we are a little bit stuck in it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about the Texas State House, because I was talking to somebody else from Texas, and I don't think most of our listeners are going to understand how the Texas State House works, right? Because you guys have session time. I mean, realistically, it is not a full-time job. This is you're right. Like you have to keep your regular job. There's no way you could live on.
Yeah. So Texas legislature has one session every other year. So when you get voted for a 2-year session, you're really only in session once for around 100 days. So
That's
it's just under
wild.
4 months that you're in session. Now the governor can call special session. So like this summer, we're having a special session of the legislature. It ended, I want to say beginning of June. It ended its regular
Like just
session.
recently, right?
Yep. So,
Yeah. Okay.
So elections so in odd years is when it meets. So it meets basically January, like late January to end of May in odd years. But then the governor, because of a number of things that didn't get passed or
Right. Just
happened,
unfinished business.
unfinished business, called a special session starting in July. And so for special session, it's the governor has to say, you can specifically talk about these topics, right? So he has to call for specific things that you're allowed to discuss during a special session.
I'm giggling because it sounds like he's like policing, teenagers in middle school. It's like, focus on the topic. Yeah.
Well, if you know our house, it's probably not so
Too
wrong.
far off. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, what's interesting about Texas is that, like, you think about the US, where the House gets these sort of extremes and the Senate is sort of a little bit more of the center and tends to hold things. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, Texas is the opposite. The Senate is like can be the more extreme, and the House is the one that tends to be more centrist, or more
Okay.
moderate to keep things sort of in line. And part of that's because there's like, if you think about like life of the circle, the things that a lot of times the sort of MAGA Republicans want will hurt the rural areas. And so you have urban
Yeah.
areas that are strongly Democrat, but these things also tend to really hurt rural areas where you have,
Yeah.
you know, smaller districts with these reps. And so things like school vouchers, which just passed here after Abbott, I think it was 12 different reps that he funded primaries against to get more extremist in. Again,
Great.
billionaire dollars coming in to fund
Yeah.
these.
Yeah.
But the House tends to be the thing that holds things, you know, closer to center than the Senate
Yeah.
here, which is a little bit, again, opposite from, you know, the rest of the country. But yeah, so we have one regular session every other year. You have a biennial budget. You are supposed to keep your day job. It
Yeah.
is, you know, a part-time job, and all this is in the Texas Constitution. The challenge for
Yeah.
me is because I work for a public university, so I cannot keep my job if I get elected. And
Okay.
there are rules against working for the state and being in the state legislature. So I'll be, which
Honestly, that
I
seems
love my
fair.
job. It does, right? Like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
That seems legit, right? Like that
it
you could
does.
hurt.
I mean,
There could be some conflict of interest somewhere
there
in
could
there.
be,
Budgets for
yeah,
schools and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, there could be. I'm a little bit more skeptical on like if I were an administrator, if I were a dean or something, I would say that like as a regular
Yeah.
professor,
You're like,
I'm
what
not
can I do?
sure.
Like
Yeah,
we're gonna actually vote to just increase the professor's salary for this very
yeah.
specific
I was like,
band, and it is
problem is,
mine.
yeah, in UTSA, whose name starts with S, like get
Like
a
that one, we're gonna double. Everyone else
yeah,
is fucked.
yeah, 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 exactly. But that's the rule. I mean, it stinks for me because I love my job. But
Yeah.
that is what it is. Like we'll deal with that when we come to it. Right now, I'm focused on winning the election, and then I'll worry about that piece of it. But yeah, Texas, we really should probably meet every year. I think there's enough.
It's a big enough fucking state.
It
It's a
was
second, right? After California.
yeah, second is depending on the rankings, it's somewhere around the eighth largest economy in the world.
But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, then maybe they should be. And maybe that's something you could bring to the floor when you guys,
Yeah.
this new class goes, because for the
Easy.
amount of people you have, the amount of economy you have, the amount of colleges and universities you have. I mean, these are all things that are partially funded by
Yeah.
the state. Like these are
Yeah.
all things that flowers that need to be tended to in your
Yeah,
in your
it's
Texas
huge,
garden,
right?
you know?
I mean, can you
Yeah.
imagine the eighth largest economy in the world only having a part-time legislature?
No,
Like,
I can't
it's
actually.
yeah.
That's why when I heard the other person I was interviewing from Texas, I was like, what? And like, I think you
Mhm.
could tell that I was very confused because I just, I live in New York. I don't understand. I cannot. That's a full-time job. Our state
Yeah.
assembly and our reps, they're full gigs.
As it should be. And again, I understand the sort of impetus to be like, okay, you're still part of the people. But
Right.
the bottom line is the money in politics has already ruined that, right? And the fact that you need to spend so much time fundraising means if you don't have a very flexible job, or you're not retired, or you're not independently wealthy, you
Right.
can't really do this, right? I'm fortunate that my job is very flexible because I
Right.
don't see if I worked a 9 to 5 where I had to be somebody where every day, I mean, we wouldn't be able to record this right now, right?
I
Like,
know. Exactly. Like class, we're recording at noon.
Yeah.
Well, Eastern, but yeah.
Yeah,
It's
mhm.
it's
It would be
harmful.
impossible.
It really is harmful for people who are average, regular. And I talk about this with almost every candidate that I've interviewed. It's the barriers to entry are absolutely bonkers. And then you're competing with PACs that are dropping $1 million into a state
A
house
state house race. Yep.
Like that's insane, right? like your district, I was looking at your district, like the number of people, and I don't know if this is exactly right because I couldn't find it on Texas Department of State. I couldn't find it there, but I mean, it's, it's a couple 100,000 people.
Yeah, it's almost exactly 200,000, right?
Yeah, like it's not
Mhm.
$1 million for that rate. And I think last time I saw it was somewhere around like 88,000 showed up to vote for the last election, and that was during presidential year. I don't know if that's right either.
Yeah. It was like 98. So 88
Okay,
actually
98,
voted in my race. 98 showed
Yeah.
up, but some people, they only vote for president and then they don't vote for anything else. So
I gotcha. Okay, that makes sense.
yeah. But no, that's right. So we've got so it's 200,000 people if you count like children.
Right, it's everybody.
But yeah, that's everybody. 150,000
The
that
pets.
are like theoretically voter eligible. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of that 150,000 in a presidential year, you'll get somewhere close to 100,000. So about 2/3 of people show up to
Yeah.
vote. It'll be
Yeah.
less than that in a off-cycle
Off the
election.
year. Right.
So
So
we're expecting about
can I ask you
65. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
the 65,000? Fucking blows, man. Can I ask you what
Yeah.
your plan is to combat this super PAC money, like big money coming for this opponent that you have?
Yeah. It's just about getting out and talking to people, right? So I
Yeah.
am doing a lot of fundraising, and I'll put a plug here
Of course.
to people
Do
come
it.
in, throw $25 into my campaign because $1,025 is $25,000, right? Like we, as a
Not
country,
nothing.
we say money's make dollars, right? So if you can afford more, I mean, I will certainly take more, but just come in and give me $25 to help us really turn the state to support everybody. So I am doing fundraising in order to be able to combat it, but a lot of it is just getting out and talking to people. One of my
Right.
complaints about the Democratic Party is that we've largely ignored people that are races that we don't think we can win. We've largely ignored rural America.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten out, right? You said, oh, those are Republicans. And we just go away and assume that they're going to vote for MAGA or R, and not
And
gone
we
out and said,
haven't
hey,
given them an opportunity to vote for fucking anybody else. That's
Exactly.
what drives me insane. Like,
Totally,
why
right?
are
We're like-
so many people running out unopposed?
yeah. There's all of that
Like-
problem. And then there's we've allowed the Republicans to just sort of set who we are, right? We let them to establish our image rather than going out and letting people decide for themselves, right? So they, Republicans are out there saying Democrats hate America and we're traitors and we're treasonous and we're communists and whatever other thing they want to throw at us. And if
Yeah.
we're not there to debate it, what is the average person who is not particularly
Yeah.
politically in tune, who's worried about paying their bills, and they hear on the news about Democrats
Right.
burning flags and this and that, right? And riots
Right.
in LA and
If you
And-
don't have someone standing up saying, "Hey, actually, let's have a conversation."
yeah.
Well, you're right. It's something that drives me insane as well. It's like,
so I spend just a lot of time going out and talking to people, going to bars, right? And specifically
Yeah.
the MAGA, right? Where the sort of old town Texas.
your district. Tell me a little bit about like the physical location. It is exactly where, guys, for our future listeners, we're recording this on July 10th, so it's exactly where, pretty much downstream from where the floods were. So it's a little
It
bit
is.
east of San Antonio. Correct.
Yeah. So if you think about the floods are on the Guadalupe River, I'm in Guadalupe, right? So
Yeah.
the river goes right through us. Now it didn't flood where we are. It was
This time.
upstream. This time it has. I mean, there have been major floods
I was
here.
looking at, is it Seguin? How do you say that town name?
Seguin.
Seguin, Texas's website has a full timeline of all the times their portion of the Guadalupe River has overflowed, and it's wild, man. It happens way too often. I mean,
I mean, there's a lake I run around 10 minutes from my house sometimes, and that lake wasn't there 30 years ago. It was a huge flood, and you can see where there was houses there that are no longer there because the flood just took an entire neighborhood
knocked
out.
everything. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild.
Oh. I know. I was looking at it. I mean, it's 2020, 2021, 2010, 2002, 96, 80, 87, 72. I mean, it's every 10 years or less. It's crazy.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Which brings up whole things about we should be investing in how you plan and prepare
Right.
and right.
It
Again,
feels like it's happening enough that we should know it's going to happen again.
exactly right. And that's why we've had things that haven't passed, but looking at better alarm systems and,
Right.
you know, what happened was a tragedy. Like, I think anyone who wants to say this is, you know, someone's fault is out there. Like, it was just a tragedy, but that doesn't mean there's things that we couldn't do that would have
And
either
mitigate.
lessened the tragedy or
Yeah.
prevent it, at least prevent it for next time. Like, we can't go back and pass a bill that didn't pass before, but we can
Right.
certainly look at like what was the argument against it and like what should we be doing in the future.
And I think it just needs to be positioned as we're going to fucking save lives. If you
And
vote
that's
against this
exactly it.
bill,
Yeah.
if you vote against this bill, you're killing people. And
Yep.
I'm going to tell every single person that that's what you did.
Yeah.
Like straight up. And that's crass and terrible, but that's the fucking truth. Like children are gone, families, entire family, like, you know, I like entire couple, like mom and dad couples who are on their family vacation are gone. So now there's orphans all like,
oh, it's awful.
it fucking
and
sucks. It just
if you
blows.
live in this area, everybody knows somebody who's affected.
Yeah.
Right. It's just
So sad.
yeah, it's, you know, it's about an hour from where I live that these floods took place. So we're trying to get out and, you know, help with the recovery efforts and do everything we can. But, so we are, you know, going back to where I am. So we are northeast of San Antonio. So I start in, cities of Schertz, Cibolo, which are right on the I-35 corridor, just outside the city. And then it goes east from there for, I don't know, 100 miles, right? It takes an hour. If I want to go to Gonzales County, which is the other county, to their city seat, Gonzales City, it's about an hour drive from my house to get there. So it's geographically, it's a fairly large area.
Space. Yeah.
Yeah. And again,
I mean, it's Texas, baby. Everything
exactly
is like, yeah.
What I will say is like, you know, if you look at Iowa or Kansas, right, their districts for their house is like 5,000 people. Our district is 200,000 people. Like it's
right. And it's an hour and a half. Like it's big, but you know, there's a lot of people to talk to at least.
Yeah, exactly. I will say, so the more suburban areas, so Schertz, Cibolo, Seguin, even in parts of New Braunfels, the majority of the people live there. So about half are in these suburban areas. Then the other half are just sprinkled throughout the rural areas going for a long ways. And so that creates a challenge of, like, if you're going to represent an area, you represent everybody in that area. You don't just represent the people that live in the suburbs. Even though from a like political like strategy might be like, well, let's go where the people are.
Right. You're like, no, I got to get to everybody.
Yeah, but you try to get to everybody because I think it's really important that we go to the rural farmers in Gonzales County. Now, of my voters, it's like, you know, 90% are in Guadalupe County, which is where the suburbs are. It's like 20,000 total in Gonzales County, right? Like,
get out there, have a couple events.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, there's still people that, like, okay, they're worried about water because a lot of these are ranchers and the water is running low here. They're worried about making sure that they can afford their houses and the property taxes that keep going up. They're worried about their school systems because these vouchers, right, are pulled out of every school system in order to fund it. But if you live in Gonzales County, the closest private school is pretty far away.
Like 2 hours probably, right?
Yeah, right? Like, maybe an hour,
pretty much.
But like, but it's, you know, you're not getting the benefits of these things. And so you've got a lot of these sort of issues that people need to be represented. And like the whole balance, think about like the Federalist Papers, right? This whole country is built on that we represent people, right? So representative democracy, and leave a portion of your people out because political strategy says go where the people are, I'm not really comfortable with. And so we try to go out and talk to everybody. But that's, you know, I know this was, again, a long-winded answer to your question about how am I going to win in this area?
No, and it's a good answer.
Right? It's going out and talking to people, right? But I will say that,
a great
again,
answer.
You can't do that unless you have enough money to be able to do it.
You can donate to...
Yes.
Where can they donate?
So if they go to www.schwabfortexas.com, there's a link to donate. I also have an act below. I don't know if you have show notes, I can send it. You can put out.
Yeah. We'll put everything in there.
Yeah.
And we'll tag all of your socials and stuff as we get through everything. I have one more question, and then I have a bunch of questions, but we are running out of time. So my question for you is how to get things done in Texas. Texas has a trifecta of government, right? Everything is one party.
Everything's red.
And that is due in part to Governor Abbott's super PAC, clearly. If that trifecta remains, but you win this district, how can you help get things done or mayhaps not get things done that could help Texas citizens and dwellers, Texas dwellers?
So I'll tell you, like, one thing I learned in the military is how to work with people that you may not personally agree with all the time, right? So in the Army, I would say, like, you were given a mission and it wasn't like, well, I don't like Sergeant whatever, right, Smith. Like, no, you
shut up.
go,
Go.
yeah, you go and you figure it out, and you figure out where you have common ground, right? There's, like, for almost anybody, and I there are extremists who you just never going to compromise with, right? But for most people, there's some sort of Venn diagram where there's overlap in what you want. And, this is my complaint on some of the more progressive parts of the Democratic Party, is it always seems like it's all or nothing, right? Either you pass this or we're never going to compromise. And the MAGA Republican, and they're like Rhino, Republican in name only, have really tried to push this as well. But I think most people, and even if you look at most of the Republican reps, I say most, again, not all, there's enough bipartisan, right? We're worried about water
there's
policy.
Something. Yeah, there's something there.
And so what can we do, right? So we want to talk about health insurance, right? I'm a big believer that everybody should have access to affordable health care, whether it's through ACA Medicaid expansion or some other policy. I do believe we should just expand Medicaid. That seems like the straightforward way to do
the
it.
Logical. Yeah.
But if you want to come up with another idea, I'm willing to talk about it, right? Like, I'm willing to sort of have those conversations that, how do we get people access? And I'll go back to the bootstraps example. I wrote this in the Substack, and then I've wrote it a couple other places. So I guess I'm not the only one who came up with this. But the idea, right, that, like, if we want people to pull them up with their bootstraps, they have to have boots. Right?
Boots have to exist. They have to exist.
Exactly.
They can't
right?
not exist.
Yeah. And so I think right now the policies are like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, but I'm taking your boots away. Right? So give them the boots, give them some bootstraps, and let them use them to pull themselves up. And so I think, it's not about, like, are we going to increase the number of handouts? It's, we want to be smart with this. And yet I think there is enough overlap from people that are trying to represent their districts. Now, these are not the extreme MAGA sort of Republicans, but I do think that Texas has enough, like, common ground that we can do this. But we've got to have those conversations, right? We've got to find where there's overlap.
We're coming full circle, right? Because we're talking about shutting the door on yourself, right?
Yeah.
And I think the Democrats do that all the time. They're like, well, this person couldn't possibly have this conversation, and they just walk away, and you're like, yeah, but did you ask?
Exactly,
did
right?
You
like, yeah. Again, we don't have to be best friends, right? Like,
yeah, like, did you even make sure?
Yeah.
Yeah. You and I have very similar anger and frustration with the Democratic Party, because I feel like we shut the door on ourselves all the time, and it's just so frustrating.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we wrap up here, give me one more time where people, your website and maybe a social handle, and then I'm going to ask you 10 rapid fire questions, and they are meant to be rapid fire, so no long answers.
I love that you had to tell me that. Okay, so go to www.schwab, my last name, SCHWAB, for Texas.com. Links to volunteer, links to donate are all on there. I do have a Secure Act Blue, which I can give you. That one I don't know off the top of my head.
That's fine. We can put that one in the show notes. Yeah.
Yeah. But go to schwabfortexans.com and you can get involved, donate, follow the campaign, do all the fun things, see what else I believe in.
All right. Amazing. So, rapid fire. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Fabulous. What was the last book you read cover to cover?
The last book I read cover to cover was The Economics of Trust by Ben Ho.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm writing that one down. Do you ever go to carry?
It's called Why Trust Matters, and then The Economics of Trust. But Ben Ho, very good.
Why Trust Matters. Great. Do you have a favorite movie?
The Princess Bride.
Great answer. 10 out of
Love
10.
it.
No, it's if you had to eat one thing, like one meal for the rest of your life, at least once a day, maybe it's breakfast, maybe it's lunch, maybe it's dinner, but one meal, would it be, do you have one? Do you have a favorite
Yes.
meal?
Thanksgiving meal: turkey, mashed potatoes, gravy, cranberry sauce, green
I feel like
beans.
that's cheating. That's everything. I get it
I
though.
love
It's
Thanksgiving
like,
meal. Yeah.
it's really good. It is. There's a lot of, I like the next day. I like the turkey sandwiches,
Uh,
with the gravy on. That's my MO.
I could eat,
Yeah.
I could eat that like for months.
Well, and you would have to if
Um,
you're eating it every single day, right?
yeah, yeah,
Do you still make a wish when you blow out your birthday candles?
I do.
Nice. Okay, final question. What is your favorite thing about your district? This can be more long-winded.
Okay. So I will start by saying this is going to be. Let me see if I can bring it down, because I love where I live. Right. I love Texas. I was not born here. I was not raised here. I've lived here, I think at this point, longer than I've lived anywhere else. When I retired from the military, we chose that this is where we wanted to stay. We built a house here. We love our
Roots.
community. I've got great neighbors. One of the things that I love about where I live that's different than many other areas I lived is just the level of integration, right? And that sounds, I don't know how it sounds, but like I go out and there's people from
Yeah.
all different backgrounds here. And I grew up in Boston, and Boston, for all the great things about Boston, is a very like
So it's still pretty
segregated.
segregated city.
It is a
Yeah.
very segregated city. I've lived a number of other places that always felt that way, right? Whether it was sort of overt or not, or
Yeah.
historical, it always felt that way. And when I got here, and maybe it's because I live near military bases, which
Right.
tend to be more integrated, but like the school system's great, and my kids are around all different people from all different backgrounds, and we've got rich and
Yeah.
poor and black and white and Latino, whatever it is, right? um you know Everyone sort of handles together, and I felt like this is not an area where um I'm worried that, I don't agree on this, right? We can have a conversation, and we've got sort of the local bars and the library and the coffee shops that you can go hang out with, and
I
people are
love that.
friendly. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I just, and then you get into like the nature, and there's places to run, and I love the weather. And yeah, I just, and honestly, I love the Texas mentality of like sort of independence, and we're gonna do what needs to get done, right? So you're gonna see this with
Yeah.
the floods, right? And you see
Yeah.
this in a lot of places when tragedy hits. It's not just here, but I know specifically here, people who are willing to roll up their sleeves and go help to make things better. So if I could change, if I could choose anywhere to live, which honestly I can, I choose right where I live because I love it. And I'm
Oh,
super dedicated to making this place as good as it can be, because like anywhere, nothing's perfect. And there are things that we need to do to make this place better. And that's why I want to stand up and say, hey, look, I have a certain skill set. I've got certain experiences, and I think I'm a person that can help us take us to the next level.
that's a perfect spot to end. Guys, this
Thank you.
is Steve Schwab. He's running for House District in Texas, and House District 44. You can check him
Yes,
out.
sir.
I will put all of his information in the show notes, and obviously we'll tag him on all of our socials as we go through this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a great time.
If you've made it this far, thank you so much. Thank you for following The Foolish Optimist. You can follow